Some mornings just feel flat. You wake up, pour that same cup of coffee, glance at the same view out the window, and it all feels a little too familiar. Maybe you even check the calendar and realize every day looks the same. No meetings, no big plans. Just another quiet afternoon with nowhere in particular to be. Now don't get me wrong, retirement can be a blessing. After years of hard work, having time to yourself is something you've earned. But here's what no one talks about enough. That same open space can sometimes feel more like a cage than a gift. The days slow down, and in that stillness, it's easy to lose track of what makes you feel truly alive. The good news? You don't need a complete life overhaul to feel excited again. No need to sell the house or book a round-the-world cruise. Sometimes, just adding a few fresh sparks to your week is all it takes to turn things around. In this video, I'm sharing 6 real, simple, and powerful ways to break out of that stuck feeling and bring more energy, joy, and meaning back into your days. These aren't grand resolutions or complicated routines, just smart, practical things you can try right where you are with what you already have. If you find yourself nodding along, I hope you'll give this video a like, subscribe to Vibrant Elders, and leave a comment with what speaks to you most. This is a space where we grow together, one idea, one change, one better day at a time. Let's jump into the first shift that can make a real difference. Adding just a touch of adventure into your week. Number 1, start a micro-adventure habit. Some days, what we need isn't more time, but just something different. A breath of fresh air for the routine. Not a big trip or a major life change. Just something to nudge the day out of autopilot and make it feel alive again. That's where the idea of a micro-adventure comes in. You don't need hiking boots or plane tickets. You don't even need to leave your county. A micro-adventure is simply one small, intentional break from your usual path. Something new, something unfamiliar, something curious. It could be as simple as visiting a cafe you've never tried, wandering through a part of town you usually drive past, or spending an hour in a local museum. Even if you think you've seen it all before. The point isn't how far you go, but how different it feels. I'll tell you about Frank. He's 72, lives just outside of Madison. A couple years into retirement, he started feeling like his weeks were blending together. He wasn't unhappy, but something was missing. So, he came up with his own rule. Every Saturday, he would go somewhere new within 30 miles of home. Just one new place, each week. He's checked out tiny historical societies, family-run bakeries, forest trails, and once even ended up at a high school jazz concert purely by accident. He laughed, telling me, "It felt like I was back in my 20s, wandering into places without a plan." And that's the magic. It doesn't have to be grand. It just needs to shake up the pattern. Micro-adventures work because our brains like new things. Neuroscientists have shown that novelty, small changes to our environment, can stimulate dopamine. That's the chemical in your brain connected to joy, attention, and motivation. So yes, something as simple as sitting in a new park or striking up a short conversation with someone at a bookshop can actually brighten your mood and give your brain a little buzz. The best part? You don't need anyone's permission or a big budget. Just choose one day this week, any day, and carve out an hour or two to go somewhere you haven't been. If you're not sure where to start, try these. Try a new breakfast spot on the other side of town. Wander through a farmer's market even if you don't need groceries. Check out your local Visitors Bureau website. They often list quirky places nearby you never noticed. Drive with no destination in mind and see where you land. Visit a garden center, even if you don't garden, just to smell the soil and see what's blooming. The key is to keep it low pressure. If it's interesting, great. If it's not, you've still stepped out of the ordinary, and that alone matters. Some people like doing this solo. It becomes their personal recharge time. Others enjoy making it a shared ritual. My neighbors Rose and Carol, both in their late 60s, meet every other Thursday for what they call Try Something Thursdays. One week it was mini golf. Another week it was a quilting class, even though neither of them sews. What they remember most isn't the activity. It's the laughter, the awkwardness, and the sense of being in motion. And over time, something shifts. The world starts to feel bigger again. You begin looking forward to your Tuesday or Saturday or Thursday, not because of a chore, but because of the unknown. Think of it like seasoning your life. Routines are the rice and beans, solid, steady, nourishing. But every now and then, you add a bit of spice. And that's what a micro-adventure does. It adds a touch of surprise, a little story to tell, and a small spark that reminds you you're still growing, still exploring, still very much alive. So this week, what will yours be? Even if it's just taking your sandwich to a park bench you've never sat on before, go. Be curious. Wonder a little. Because your sense of wonder didn't retire when you did, it just needs an invitation. Number 2. Build a morning trigger that breaks autopilot. Most people don't realize just how much the first few minutes of the day shape everything that follows. It's not just about whether you drink coffee or tea. It's about how your mind wakes up, how your body greets the morning, and what signals you're sending to yourself about the kind of day it's going to be. One of the most effective ways to shift out of that stuck, repetitive feeling in retirement is to build a small morning trigger, something simple, consistent, and intentional that gently breaks the old rhythm and brings in a new sense of presence. This isn't about building a full morning routine with yoga, smoothies, and gratitude journaling, unless you want that. It's about inserting just one new habit into the beginning of your day. A trigger that reminds your brain, today is yours, and it's not on autopilot. For example, it might be as simple as stepping outside barefoot onto the porch for 60 seconds, just to feel the air and listen to the birds. Or putting on music while you brush your teeth. Or stretching your arms up to the ceiling before you even leave the bed. Small shifts like these can wake up more than your muscles. They wake up your attention. A few years ago, I spoke with a retired accountant named Jean. She told me that for the first 2 years of retirement, her mornings looked exactly the same. Wake up, pour coffee, sit in the same chair, scroll through the news until she realized it was almost noon. It didn't feel bad, but it didn't feel good either. It just felt flat. Then one day, she decided to change one thing. Before she reached for her phone, she opened the blinds, stepped out onto her back patio, and said aloud, "What kind of day do I want today?" That tiny ritual, just 90 seconds long, shifted something. Her days began with clarity, not passivity. And over time, that changed how she planned her afternoons, how she reconnected with old friends, how she thought about her time. There's actually science behind this. Researchers, including James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, talk about how routines automate our lives, which is great for brushing our teeth, but less great when every day starts to feel like a copy of the one before. A trigger habit disrupts that loop. It tells your brain, pay attention, something different is happening. That cue opens up a sense of freshness that can ripple out into your whole day. So what could that trigger look like for you? It doesn't have to be dramatic. You might decide to write down one thing you're looking forward to, even if it's small, or walk around your block before breakfast, or brew your coffee while standing instead of sitting, just to feel your body move. If you're into mindfulness, you could try 5 minutes of guided breathing using a free app. If not, just lighting a candle while you eat your toast could serve as a symbolic start to your day. The goal isn't perfection, it's intention. One man I know, Robert, he's 75, lives in New Mexico, keeps a basket by his recliner with 3 things: a notepad, a Bible, and a harmonica. Each morning, he picks whichever one calls to him and spends 10 minutes with it before anything else. He told me, "It's like a handshake with the day. I get to choose who I want to be before the news or the noise gets in." The first few minutes of the day are some of the only ones we truly control. No phone calls, no errands, no obligations pulling at you yet. By placing a small, consistent trigger there, you're reclaiming that time. You're saying, "I'm here, and I care how this day begins." And once that shift happens, you might notice something else. The rest of the day starts to respond. You make slightly different choices. You feel a bit more alive, more curious, more in tune. It's a quiet change, but it matters. So tomorrow morning, instead of reaching for the remote or phone right away, try changing just one small thing. Pick your trigger. Try it for a few days. See what opens up. Because sometimes, all it takes is one new step at the start of the day to walk a completely different path. Number 3, try one social novelty each week. Human beings are social creatures, no matter how old we get. We're wired for connection, not just deep, lifelong bonds, but also the lighthearted, surprising ones that come from meeting new people, hearing new stories, or simply sharing a laugh with someone we don't usually see. That's why introducing just one new social experience each week can do wonders for shaking off that feeling of being stuck. Now, I know, social novelty can sound a little intimidating. especially if you're not someone who loves crowds or small talk. But here's the key. It doesn't have to be a big event. It just has to be different. A new voice, a different setting, or a slightly unfamiliar group can shift your energy in ways that really stick. Take Alice, for example. She's 69, widowed, and lives in a quiet neighborhood in Ohio. For a long time, her week revolved around the same circle: church on Sunday, calls with her daughter, and errands at the usual spots. One day, she saw a flyer at the library for a storytelling circle, just a group of folks sharing true stories from their lives. She showed up that first Thursday with no expectations. By the end of the hour, she'd laughed, teared up, and swapped stories with two new people who are now her regular coffee friends. She told me, "I hadn't realized how long it had been since I met someone new who really listened." That's the thing. Social novelty doesn't mean replacing your old friends. It means giving yourself the chance to stretch a little, to feel seen in a fresh way. And that has a real effect. According to a 2020 AARP study, about 1 in 3 older adults in the US experiences serious loneliness. That's a public health concern, but also a personal one. Because feeling disconnected doesn't just affect your mood. It impacts memory, physical health, and even lifespan. So what can you do? Start with something low stakes and local. Maybe check the bulletin board at your library or senior center. Look for one-time events, community garden days, free concerts in the park, public lectures at your nearby community college. Often, local coffee shops host open mic nights or book clubs. You don't have to perform or speak. Just showing up is enough. And then there's volunteering. Places like Meals on Wheels, the Red Cross, or your town's animal shelter often need help from people who have time, and retirees are gold in that department. You might spend one afternoon handing out food boxes or reading to kids at a literacy program. The people you meet there are often multi-generational, kind-hearted, and grateful. One retired couple I know, Linda and Tom, started helping out once a month at a state park visitor center. They hand out maps and chat with hikers. "It gives us something to look forward to," Linda says. "And every time we go, we meet someone new. It makes the world feel big again." If you're more of a homebody, there are still options. Technology has opened up all kinds of ways to connect. There are online communities for just about everything. Virtual travel clubs, genealogy discussion groups, even Zoom poetry nights for older adults. It might feel odd at first, but don't underestimate the power of seeing a few friendly faces and being part of a conversation that isn't about errands, the weather, or medical appointments. What matters most is the shift. When you try something new socially, you step outside your bubble. You hear new stories. You feel part of something bigger. That kind of emotional spark has staying power. It carries you through the week, brings color back to the quiet moments. You don't need to go out every day. You don't need to sign up for anything long-term. Just once a week, say yes to one social invitation, or send one out yourself. Invite someone you haven't seen in a while to walk through the farmer's market. Join a community choir, even if you don't think you can sing. Sit in on that history lecture at the rec center just to see who else is curious. Because life after 60 isn't meant to shrink down to your living room. It's meant to open up in ways you couldn't have imagined back when your days were packed with work and responsibility. So take that step, however small. Say hi. Show up. You never know what kind of joy is waiting just outside your usual circle. Number 4, learn something that challenges you, not just fills time. There's something deeply satisfying about learning, not just to pass time, but to stretch, to surprise yourself, to feel that little flicker of challenge again, like a mental muscle getting back to work after a long rest. And here's the truth that doesn't get said often enough. You're not done learning just because you're retired. In fact, this might be the best time to learn something new, because now you get to choose. You're not studying for a degree, impressing a boss, or chasing a paycheck. You're learning for the joy of it, for the spark, for yourself. So many people fill retirement with passive pastimes, and that's fine to a point. A little TV, some crossword puzzles, maybe flipping through the paper. But those things are like cotton candy for the brain. Soft, easy, sweet, but not all that nourishing. What really wakes the brain up is active effort, struggling through something unfamiliar, even just a little. Take Stan, for example. He's 68, a retired electrician from Michigan. A couple of years ago, he decided to start learning Italian. Not because he was going to Italy, just because he thought it sounded beautiful. He downloaded an app, watched YouTube videos, practiced 5 words a day. At first, he said it felt like trying to read upside down. But now, he can have a short conversation. He reads simple articles. And most importantly, he feels proud again, like he's still becoming something. That's the power of learning that challenges. And science backs it up. Studies from the National Institutes of Health and Alzheimer's researchers have shown that engaging in complex learning tasks, like a new language, musical instrument, or skill that pushes you out of your comfort zone, can actually strengthen neural pathways and promote brain plasticity. Yes, even well into your 70s and 80s. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being engaged. Now, if you're thinking, I've never been good at learning, I get that. School wasn't fun for everyone. But retirement learning isn't about grades. It's about curiosity. And there are endless options that can fit your pace, your style, and your interests. Maybe you pick up a beginner's guitar and learn a few chords on YouTube. Or take a tech class at your local library. Many have free sessions for seniors on how to use smartphones, tablets, or even basic coding. Maybe you join a local memoir writing group and finally start telling the stories you've held on to all these years. There are also online history courses you can take for free through places like Coursera or edX. You can audit a class on Civil War history, astronomy, creative writing, anything. And it doesn't have to be academic. A friend of mine, Sharon, started learning how to bake bread from scratch after watching a documentary. She tried 3 recipes that failed, then finally nailed one that made her kitchen smell like a Paris bakery. She called it the most satisfying failure I've ever had. That's the point. You don't have to be great. You just have to be in it. Struggling, laughing, messing up, and improving. That struggle, that mental friction, is where your brain lights up. It's what keeps the days feeling alive instead of flat. If you're not sure where to start, ask yourself this. What's one thing I've always been curious about, but never had time to try? Not something you're already good at. Something that scares you just enough to feel exciting. Or ask your grandkids what they're learning. Let them teach you something for a change. It's one of the fastest ways to connect across generations. Plus, they'll love seeing you light up about something new. The world is full of things to explore, and you have the freedom now to do it on your own terms. No deadlines, no pressure, just you, your curiosity, and a little courage. So give yourself permission to be a beginner again, to feel unsure, clumsy, awkward. That's where the growth is, and that's where the joy is too. Because retirement doesn't mean you're done becoming. It just means you finally get to choose who you become next. Number 5, create a purpose ritual, even if small. There's something quiet, but powerful about having a reason to get out of bed. Not just out of habit. Not because you have a list of chores or a doctor's appointment, but because something you do matters. To someone else, to your family, or maybe just to you. That's where a purpose ritual comes in. It's not a job. It's not a burden. It's a simple, recurring action, daily or weekly, that reminds you, I'm still needed. I still matter. It might be writing one handwritten letter a week to someone in your life, or preparing soup every Sunday for your neighbor who lives alone, or mentoring a younger person through a local program, or even just over coffee once a month. What matters most is that the ritual connects you to your values, your care, your voice, your story. Let me tell you about Irene. She's a retired nurse in her early 70s, and after a few years of enjoying travel and downtime, she hit a point where she felt invisible. Her words, not mine. She wasn't depressed exactly, but the days started to feel hollow. So she created her own ritual. Every Friday morning, she sits down with a cup of tea and writes a letter to one of her grandkids. No agenda, just sharing something about her week, a story from her childhood, or a question for them to think about. At first, she wasn't sure they'd care. But then the replies started coming in. Short texts, voice memos, sometimes even letters back. And now, she says it's the highlight of her week. Not because they always write back, but because she's putting something of herself into the world, in her own voice, with love. That's purpose. Not flashy, not complicated, just meaningful. In Japan, there's a concept called ikigai. It loosely translates to a reason for being. Studies have shown that older adults who maintain even a small sense of daily purpose live longer, experience less loneliness, and report greater emotional well-being. And it doesn't have to be grand. Even feeding birds at the same time every morning or checking in with a friend every Thursday can carry more meaning than we realize. If you're thinking, I'm not sure what my purpose is anymore, that's completely okay. The goal here isn't to answer some giant life question. It's to build a tiny bridge between who you are and what you care about, and then cross it once in a while. Start by thinking about what lights you up when you talk about it. Is it your family? Your garden? Your faith? Your past profession? Animals? Books? Music? Whatever it is, build something small and regular around it. Maybe you used to be a teacher. Could you volunteer once a month to help kids with reading? Maybe you love to bake. Could you deliver one batch of cookies each week to someone who needs cheering up? Maybe you've walked through tough times. Could you join a support group and help others who are just beginning that path? It's not about impressing anyone. It's about impact. Quiet, steady, personal impact. I also know that purpose shifts over time. What gave you a sense of meaning 10 years ago might not anymore. That's okay too. The key is to notice when you're starting to feel aimless and gently build something that grounds you again. My friend Daniel, who spent his career in finance, now spends an hour every Sunday recording simple voice memos, talking about what he's learned in life, what he regrets, what he wishes someone had told him earlier. He sends them to his adult kids, sometimes posts them online. He says it gives him peace, knowing he's passing something on. So what might your purpose ritual be? Don't overthink it. Just start small. Choose something you can do with care consistently. Try it for 3 weeks. See how it feels. Because in retirement, time stretches, but meaning doesn't show up on its own. We have to create it. And once you do, even the quietest days can feel full again, not because they're busy, but because they're aligned with your heart. Number 6, design one weekly no phone, no chore day. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. No chores, no appointments, no buzzing phone in your pocket. Just a day that belongs completely to you. Not out of obligation, but out of care. That's what a no phone, no chore day is all about. And it might be the one thing missing from your weekly rhythm. We live in a world that's always on. Even in retirement, the pressure to stay productive lingers. You wake up and immediately start running through the checklist, laundry, groceries, doctor calls, picking up something for the grandkids. And when you do sit down, the phone is right there, feeding you news, notifications, and endless little things to react to. After a while, that noise adds up. It chips away at your peace. And without realizing it, even your free time starts to feel like another kind of work. That's why carving out one day a week, a half day, even, where you unplug and unburden yourself can feel like a deep exhale. A day where you don't check the headlines or fold the towels or respond to every ping. You just be. My friend Carol, who's 74, calls it her Free Friday. No chores, no errands, no TV, no scrolling. She starts the morning with a slow breakfast on the porch. Maybe reads a chapter of her book. She walks down to the bakery, gets something sweet, and eats it slowly. No multitasking, no guilt. Sometimes she just sits at the park and watches squirrels. That's the whole day. And she swears it's the most healing thing she's done for herself in retirement. At first, it might feel strange, even a little uncomfortable. We're so used to proving our worth through action, checking things off, staying available, being on top of it all. But this kind of pause? It's a reset for the soul. There's research to back it up, too. Psychologists have found that regular, intentional rest, especially time spent without screens or performance pressure, reduces cortisol, improves emotional resilience, and helps restore your natural focus. In other words, giving your brain a break helps it work better when it's time to engage again. So how do you do it? Start by picking a day, or even just a few hours, where you'll be unavailable in the best possible way. Let your family know this is your protected time. Turn your phone off or put it in another room. And skip the chores. They'll still be there tomorrow. Then choose a few things that bring you joy without demanding anything back. Maybe you take a slow walk in nature, or sit by the window with your favorite music. Pull out that jigsaw puzzle you started last winter. Write in a journal. Try a new herbal tea. Pull weeds in your garden because you want to, not because you have to. The key is to make no part of the day about productivity or efficiency. This isn't a get stuff done day. It's a be with yourself day. You don't have to earn it. You already have. And if that inner voice creeps in, the one that says, "Shouldn't I be doing something more useful?" just remind it, rest is useful. Stillness is sacred. In fact, it's often in those quiet, unstructured hours that new ideas, memories, and clarity start to rise. You might find yourself suddenly remembering a friend you haven't called in years, or feeling inspired to pick up a long-lost hobby. Or you might just feel a little lighter, a little more spacious inside. That's the gift. Some people like to give their day a name, like Soulful Saturday or Simple Sunday. It's not required, of course, but it helps mark the day as something special. a ritual, a promise to yourself that you won't abandon in favor of busyness. And over time, these days become more than a break from routine. They become anchors. Gentle reminders that your time is not just something to spend or fill, but something to cherish. So if life has been feeling a little too noisy, a little too full, maybe what you need isn't more to do. Maybe it's just one day, unplugged, unhurried, and completely yours. Because peace isn't something you wait for. It's something you schedule. So now we've walked through 6 simple, powerful ways to break out of that rut that retirement can sometimes bring. None of them require a big budget, a big trip, or a big personality. Just a little curiosity, a small shift, a gentle reminder that you're still very much alive and that your time is still rich with possibility. Maybe it's choosing a new place to explore each week, a micro-adventure that adds color to your routine, or changing how your mornings begin with a fresh trigger that gently reclaims your day. It could be opening yourself up to new faces, new conversations, stretching your mind with a new skill, deepening your sense of purpose through something small but meaningful. And don't forget that sacred pause, a weekly day that belongs to you and no one else. The beauty is, you don't have to do all 6. You don't even have to do them in order. Just start with one. Try it next week. See how it feels. You might be surprised how one small choice can shift the way your whole week unfolds. And now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing that helps you feel more alive these days? Or if you try something from this video, what did it open up for you? Share it in the comments. Your story might just be the spark someone else needs. If this video gave you even one helpful idea, consider giving it a like, subscribing to Vibrant Elders, and joining this growing community of thoughtful, joyful, ever-curious souls. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and above all, remember, it's never too late to feel fully, deeply, wonderfully alive.